The crimson ultimatum, the great crystal spires of Nexus Prime, trembled as emergency alarms echoed through the stellar Confederation's capital. In the massive council chamber, representatives from 47 different species gathered in unprecedented haste. The air recyclers worked overtime to accommodate the various atmospheric requirements, creating a haze that matched the confusion filling the room. Ambassador Kethvar of the Valiant Empire stood at the central podium, his 6 arms gesturing frantically as he addressed the assembled delegates. His normally pristine silver skin had turned a pale blue, a clear sign of extreme distress among his people. Fellow beings of the Confederation, we face annihilation. The Crimson Fleet has destroyed another system. 3 billion souls vanished. In an instant, the massive holographic display behind him showed the aftermath of the Kepler 442 system. Where once a thriving solar system had existed, now only empty space remained. No debris, no radiation, no trace that anything had ever been. There, the assembled delegates fell silent, their various forms of communication stilled by the magnitude of what they witnessed. Dr. Zephes, the crystalline representative of the Quartz Collective, resonated with a frequency that translated to pure terror. The reality erasure continues. 17 systems in 12 standard days. The Crimson Fleet moves without pattern, without warning. Our greatest defensive fleets cannot even slow them down. In the human section of the chamber, Captain Alina Vasquez sat quietly, her dark eyes studying the tactical data scrolling across her personal display. At 35, she had earned her position through a combination of tactical brilliance and unshakable determination. Her weathered face bore the marks of countless battles, but her expression remained calm even as chaos erupted around her. Captain Vasquez, Kethvar called out, his voice carrying a note of desperation. Humanity has remained silent during our discussions. Surely your species recognizes the threat we face. Alina stood slowly, her uniform bearing the insignia of the United Earth Space Command. Unlike the elaborate robes and environmental suits worn by other delegates, her simple blue and silver outfit seemed almost mundane. Yet every eye in the chamber turned to her as she approached the speaking platform. Ambassador Kethvar, members of the Confederation, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. Humanity has indeed been analyzing the threat. Our scientists have studied every engagement, every destroyed system, every piece of available data. She gestured to the holographic display, which shifted to show detailed tactical analyses. The Crimson Fleet consists of approximately 50 vessels, each measuring over 20 kilometers in length. They appear to be constructed from a material that doesn't interact with normal matter except when they choose to engage their reality-warping weapons. The Taurian delegate, a massive insectoid creature, clicked his mandibles in agitation. We know this already, human. Tell us something useful. Tell us how to run, how to hide, how to survive. Elena's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes seemed to harden. Humanity doesn't run from bullies. The chamber erupted in shocked voices from dozens of species. The Valiant skin shifted through several colors of panic. The Quartz Collective's harmonic resonance became discordant with disbelief. Even the normally composed ethereal collective's energy fields fluctuated wildly. You cannot be serious, Kethvar stammered. These beings erase entire star systems. They have technology beyond our comprehension. The wisest course is evacuation to the Outer Rim galaxies. The Outer Rim won't be far enough, Alina replied calmly. Dr. Marcus Chen, Our chief xenobiologist has been studying the pattern of attacks. Marcus, would you share your findings? A tall, lean man with graying temples stepped forward. Dr. Chen had spent his career studying alien life forms, but the Crimson Fleet had presented him with his greatest challenge yet. Thank you, Captain. Based on our analysis, the Crimson Fleet isn't randomly destroying systems. They're following a specific pattern, testing our responses. He manipulated the holographic display, showing the destroyed systems connected by glowing lines. Each attack has been progressively closer to major population centers. They're not trying to wipe us out quickly. They're studying us, learning how we react under pressure. Commander Sarah Blake, Elena's tactical officer, joined them at the podium. Her red hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and her green eyes held the cold calculation of a career military officer. More importantly, they're testing our defenses. Every time we've engaged them, they've used just enough power to overwhelm our fleets. They're not using their full capabilities. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Crimson Fleet wasn't just destroying civilizations. They were conducting some kind of experiment. What do you propose, humans? Asked the ethereal collective's representative, their energy form shifting to a deep purple that indicated serious consideration. Elena looked around the chamber at the assembled delegates. We propose to give them a test they weren't expecting. Humanity will engage the Crimson Fleet directly. The explosion of protests was immediate and overwhelming. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of disbelief and fear. Through it all, Alina stood calmly, waiting for the chaos to subside. You're talking about suicide, Kethvar finally managed. Your entire species will be erased from existence. Maybe, Alina admitted, but we've never backed down from a fight that needed fighting, and this one definitely needs fighting. Dr. Chen stepped forward again. We've developed a theoretical approach. The Crimson Fleet's reality warping technology appears to function by creating localized distortions in space-time. If we can overload their systems with enough simultaneous targets, we might be able to disrupt their ability to focus their weapons. Commander Blake nodded. The plan is simple in concept. We'll use our entire fleet to create a coordinated assault on their mothership. Not to destroy it, but to force it to multitask beyond its capabilities. And if you fail, asked the Taurian delegate, then at least we'll have bought you time to evacuate further, Alina replied. But we don't plan to fail. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Finally, Kethvar spoke. The Confederation cannot officially sanction such a desperate action. The risk is too great. We're not asking for your permission, Elena said quietly. We're telling you what we're going to do. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Dr. Zephy's resonated with a frequency that conveyed both admiration and sorrow. Why would you sacrifice yourselves for species that have often treated humanity as inferior? Alina paused at the chamber's exit. Because someone has to, and because that's who we are. 12 hours later, the EU's Defiance led a fleet of 200 human vessels toward the Andromeda sector, where the Crimson Fleet had last been detected. The human ships were smaller than the massive dreadnoughts fielded by other species, but they moved with a coordination that spoke of countless hours of training and an unshakable trust in their mission. On the bridge of the Defiance, engineer Tommy Rodriguez worked frantically to implement the modifications Dr. Chen had designed. Tommy was young, barely 25, but his understanding of both human and alien technology was unmatched. His hands moved with practiced efficiency as he rerouted power systems and installed experimental equipment. "Tommy, how are we looking?" Alina asked, settling into her command chair. "The modifications are holding, Captain. But I can't guarantee they'll work under combat conditions. We're basically jury-rigging technology that shouldn't be compatible." "That's what humans do best," Commander Blake observed from her tactical station. "We make impossible things work through sheer stubbornness." The bridge crew chuckled, but the tension was palpable. They all knew they were flying toward almost certain death. Yet none of them had hesitated when the call came. This was what humanity did. They stood between the innocent and the dark, regardless of the cost. "Captain," the navigation officer called out, "we're approaching the Andromeda sector. Long range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures." Alina stood and walked to the main viewing screen. In the distance, barely visible against the starfield, dark shapes moved with predatory grace. The Crimson Fleet had found them. "All ships, this is Captain Vasquez," she announced over the fleet communication system. "You know the plan, you know the risks, but you also know why we're here. Today, we show the galaxy that humanity doesn't know how to quit." The response came from 200 ships simultaneously. "Acknowledged, Captain. Ready to engage." As the human fleet accelerated toward the Crimson Fleet, Alina felt a familiar calm settle over her. This was what she had trained for her entire life. Not the specific enemy or the impossible odds, but the moment when everything depended on human courage and determination. The Crimson Fleet began to move, their massive ships turning toward the approaching human vessels. Energy readings spiked as their reality-warping weapons began to charge. The test was about to begin. Asterisk. When hope becomes fury. The space between the human fleet and the crimson vessels erupted in a display of destruction that defied comprehension. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist as the alien weapons discharged, creating tears in space-time that consumed everything they touched. 3 human ships simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but erased from reality as if they had never been built. "Evasive maneuvers," Alina commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos on the bridge. "Execute." Formation Delta Cell. The human fleet scattered like a school of fish avoiding a predator. Their smaller, more maneuverable ships dancing between the reality-warping blasts. Commander Blake's tactical genius showed as she coordinated the complex formation, keeping the fleet spread out enough to avoid mass casualties while maintaining their offensive capability. "Tommy, are the modifications holding?" Alina called out as the ship shuddered from a near miss. "Barely," the young engineer replied, sweat beading on his forehead. "The quantum resonance dampeners are overloading. We've got maybe 10 minutes before they burn out completely." Dr. Chen looked up from his science station, his face pale but determined. "Captain, I'm detecting something unusual. The Crimson ships are having to recalibrate their weapons between shots. They're not used to targets that move like we do." Alina nodded, processing the information rapidly. "Blake, relay new orders to the fleet. Random pattern evasion, but maintain proximity to the mothership. We need to keep them focused on us." The battle had been raging for 20 minutes when the first breakthrough came. Lieutenant Commander Jack Harrison, piloting his fighter escort, managed to get close enough to one of the Crimson vessels to attempt a direct scan. What he found changed everything. "Captain Vasquez, this is Harrison. You need to see this data. The Crimson ships aren't just weapons platforms, they're testing facilities. I'm detecting thousands of different energy signatures from dozens of species. Alina felt a chill run down her spine. They're not just destroying civilizations, they're cataloging them. Dr. Chen's voice was grim as he analyzed the incoming data. Captain, based on these readings, I believe the Crimson Fleet has been doing this for millennia. They appear to be collecting information about every species they encounter before erasing them. But why? Commander Blake asked, even as she coordinated another wave of attacks. The answer came from an unexpected source. The largest of the Crimson vessels, a massive ship that dwarfed even the mightiest human dreadnought, suddenly stopped firing. Instead, it began broadcasting on all frequencies. The voice that filled the human fleet's communication systems was unlike anything they had ever heard. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, carrying harmonics that spoke directly to the mind rather than the ears. Small ones of the third world, from the star you call soul. You fight when others flee. You protect when others abandon. You sacrifice when others preserve themselves. This is ... unexpected. Alina stood straighter, her command presence filling the bridge. This is Captain Alina Vasquez of the United Earth Space Command. Identify yourself. We are the keepers of the final test. For 10,000 of your years, we have traveled the galaxy, testing species to determine their worthiness. All have failed. All have chosen preservation over protection, self over sacrifice. The communication paused, and the reality-warping weapons of the Crimson Fleet powered down. The sudden silence was more terrifying than the battle had been. You are different, humans. Your species chooses to fight, not for conquest, but for protection. You sacrifice not for glory, but for others. This has not been seen since the first. One's ascended beyond physical existence. Dr. Chen worked frantically at his station, trying to process the implications. Captain, I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the Crimson Fleet, but they're not weapons, they're scanners of some kind. Humans of Earth, the voice continued, your species has passed the test that all others have failed. You have shown that intelligence can exist alongside compassion, that strength can be tempered by wisdom, that power can be used for protection rather than domination. Alina felt a strange mixture of relief and apprehension. What does that mean? For our galaxy, it means that the cycle of testing is complete. The galaxy has produced a species worthy of guardianship. The Crimson Fleet will withdraw, and the responsibility for protecting the younger species will fall to humanity. Commander Blake looked up from her tactical display, her expression troubled. Captain, we're detecting massive changes in the Crimson ships. They're transforming. The viewing screen showed an impossible sight. The massive Crimson vessels were reshaping themselves, their dark hulls becoming transparent, revealing intricate crystalline structures within. The ships that had moments before been instruments of destruction were becoming something else entirely. These vessels now belong to humanity, the voice announced. They contain the accumulated knowledge of 10,000 years of galactic exploration. Technologies beyond your current understanding, but not beyond your eventual comprehension. Use them wisely. Alina felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. We didn't ask for this. No species ever does. But you have proven that you will accept it nonetheless. The galaxy needs guardians, humans, species that will protect without conquering, guide without controlling, sacrifice without counting the cost. Tommy looked up from his engineering station, his young face showing a mixture of wonder and concern. Captain, I'm detecting energy signatures from the transformed ships. They're not just giving us technology, they're giving us the tools to protect entire star systems. Dr. Chen nodded, his scientific mind racing with possibilities. The defensive capabilities alone could shield entire sectors from natural disasters, hostile invasions, or cosmic phenomena. But with great power comes great responsibility, Alina murmured, remembering words from humanity's ancient wisdom. Indeed, the voice agreed. The keepers have watched species after species fail this test. They choose self-preservation over sacrifice, isolation over integration, domination over protection. Humanity alone has shown that a species can be both powerful and compassionate. As the Crimson Fleet completed its transformation, smaller vessels began detaching from the mothership. These craft approached the human fleet with obvious peaceful intent, their hulls glowing with soft, welcoming light. "These are your new responsibilities," the voice explained. "Each vessel contains the knowledge needed to help younger species develop safely. You will guide them, protect them, and when they are ready, test them as you have been tested." Alina turned to address her crew. "What do you think? Are we ready for this?" Commander Blake spoke first. "Captain, humanity has always been at its best when we're protecting others. This is just a larger scale." Dr. Chen nodded enthusiastically. "The scientific opportunities alone are staggering. We could help species avoid the mistakes that have held back galactic development for millennia." Tommy grinned, despite the magnitude of the situation. "Well, if we're going to be galactic guardians, at least we'll have the best tools for the job." Alina looked out at the transformed fleet, then back at her crew. "Signal all human vessels. We're going home. But we're going home with a new mission." As the human fleet began its journey back to Earth, now accompanied by the transformed Crimson vessels, Alina couldn't help but smile. Humanity had always been reluctant heroes, thrust into situations that required them to be better than they thought possible. This was just the latest chapter in that story. The galaxy had tested humanity and found them worthy. Now it was humanity's turn to help others reach that same worthiness. It wouldn't be easy, but then again, the best things never were. As the stars streaked past the viewing screen, Alina began planning humanity's new role as protectors of the galaxy. The test was over. The real work was just beginning. Behind them, in the empty space where the battle had raged, a single message broadcasted across all frequencies: "The Keepers have found their successors. The galaxy is in capable hands. The age of humanity as galactic guardians had begun."